so the next speaker is Alison Rash, and she is an artist and a professor and a survivor. And her title today is When Cancer Continues, Stories of Hope. She relocated in Lincoln, Nebraska with her husband Bryan and their 2 children after nearly 2 decades in Los Angeles. She earned an MFA, is that a Master's of Arts?
Fine Arts.
Got that? Fine Arts, got it. From Claremont Graduate University with a concentration in painting and a Master's of Arts in Education from Pepperdine University Graduate School of Education and Psychology, and a bachelor's degree in arts from Pepperdine University. Her paintings have been exhibited in Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco, San Diego, Dallas, and Washington D.C, as well as internationally in Paris, France, Venice, Italy, Tokyo, and Japan. Does that mean you got to go to all those places?
No, wouldn't that be great?
You should go with your artwork, Allie. That should be a thing. Alison was diagnosed with stage 2B breast cancer in 2014, which metastasized to stage 4 in 2016. She has received treatment including chemotherapy, surgery, radiation, and hormone therapy consistently for the past 9 years. With 3 different metastatic relapses, Alison has had many opportunities to pivot, to adjust, muster strength, change course, and continue to live her life. She believes that even here, in the middle of a metastatic cancer diagnosis, there is so much laughter, love, life, and hope. Please welcome Alison Rash.
I only want my PowerPoint to work because I want you to see the faces of my friends. So we'll see if it comes up. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, first of all, I think Kirsty stepped out, but I remember really not being sure how to dress being bald, or I've never had reconstruction, so not having breasts was really difficult. So I want to thank Kirsty for her presentation, and also just acknowledge my disease is stage 4, but I think if you're stage 0, stage 1, stage 2, I think we all share similar fears and concerns and worries. So, and I also want to release you from worrying that you might progress to stage 4. I'm kind of an outlier, so I'll just lay that out there. As I look out over all of the beautiful faces here today, I wonder if there's a single person in this room who ever imagined they'd be sitting here, and I know I didn't. So I want to start out by reading this blessing over you by New York Times bestselling author Kate Bowler. If you don't follow her, I recommend it. She's wonderful. Kate was unexpectedly diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer at the age of 35, and she was not expected to survive 9 months. And after years of being told she was incurable, she was declared cancer-free. And it's been 8 years since that diagnosis. There's Kate. A blessing for the resilient. Blessed are you who are tired of feeling grateful all of the time. You feel more comfortable with moments of rage and negativity and venting all that you lost. Blessed are you when you say, hand on your heart, that there are truths you wish you could unlearn, riches you wish you could get back, the innocence, the hope, the sweet fearlessness of never having lost. You are resilient, but I wish you never had to be. Your survival costs you, and it's okay to name it, to be grateful and outraged. You might never get the apologies you're owed, though we long to hear them say it. I'm sorry, I should have believed you, I should have sheltered you, this never should have happened. The almost truths are difficult to swallow. Yes, we learned so much, yes, we overcame, yes, we grew, but this perspective, we would give it back in a heartbeat. Bless us, God, in our gratitude, in our anger, in our survival. And may you, my dear, be met today with gentleness and stillness and peace, energy, momentum, or rest, whatever it takes to carry the weight of all this resilience. I'm going to start out with my story. You have cancer. The first time I heard those words was in 2014 at the age of 34, breast cancer. Our son Flynn was 3 and our daughter Zuzu was just 18 months. And if you're sitting in this room, you know the gravity of those words. When I received my diagnosis, I wanted nothing more than to hear stories of people who had a worse diagnosis or worse prognosis than I did, but who were doing well. Real people. I wanted hope that if they could survive, maybe I could too. So today, I want to tell you a little bit about myself and introduce you to a few of my friends. None of these friends have the same kind of cancer or the same subtype. Only 2 of us see the same doctor. None of them do the same treatments or have had success with the same therapies. What these friends do have in common is that they each received the diagnosis of stage 4 metastatic cancer, and each of them are not only surviving, they're living and thriving. So it's my desire to share hope with you today. I want to acknowledge for a moment, though, that each of us sitting here may be in a different place. In the past 9 years, I've had times when I didn't want to hear anyone else's cancer story because I was navigating my own. There were times when one well-meaning comment struck a chord of fear in me that reverberated over and over. And there have been times when I wanted to hear every cancer story, whether the outcome was one that I considered favorable or not. So there's space for all of that here. You're navigating your own experience, and your experience is not my experience, is not the experience of my friends or even the person sitting next to you. But hope is universal, and we can all have hope, and we can share a little bit of that hope with each other. Like I said, I'm a little bit of an outlier. Just a year and a half after my initial diagnosis, I heard the words, "You have cancer again." This time it had metastasized to stage 4, breast cancer in the lymph nodes in my neck. Median survival for my age and my very specific type of cancer was 2 to 3 years. And I carefully considered my options and looked at my husband, Bryan, and said, 2 to 3 years isn't very long. Why don't we at least try for longer? 2 more metastatic relapses, and 7 years later, I stand before you today. This time I've been in remission since May of 2020, and Flynn is now 12. Bryan has a lot more gray hair, and he'll be here this afternoon, so you'll get to see that. In the past 9 years, there's only been a 6-month time period when I was not doing active treatment, aside from hormone suppression. It's been 9 years of various chemotherapy regimens, bilateral mastectomy, radiation, appointments, OT, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, wound care, and scans. But more importantly, 9 years of life. 9 years of first days of school, soccer games, Christmas mornings, of bedtime back rubs, hugs, when there are tears, hard conversations, and so much laughter with Bryan. 9 years of pivots, 9 years of unmet expectations, changing plans, holding things loosely, and becoming more at ease in the unknown. 9 years of living fully. Well, there's us. This is my cousin Ellie. So Ellie was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer and was told by her leading cancer center that median survival was 10 to 12 months. Last month was 12 years since her diagnosis, and she's currently in remission again. So I want to stop here for a moment again, because I have a deep respect for every oncologist that I've ever met, for every doctor that has looked me in the eyes and had to tell me hard information. I have a deep respect for large comprehensive cancer centers, university hospitals, community cancer centers, research centers, and private centers, like the one I see now with only 2 oncologists. And you will hear in these stories that the cancer center that wasn't the best fit for Ellie absolutely saved my friend Lori's life. And the treatment that failed me has been Lori's saving grace also. So none of what I say is to disparage any person, institution, or treatment, or to promote any particular type of treatment. What I want you to hear is that information is good and helpful, and that no human truly knows the length of another human's life. Ellie told me early on that she kept thinking, why me, why me? And then one day it shifted and she thought, why not me? Like, why can't I be one of the people who beats this? She's never had radiation. She started one chemotherapy regimen, and when that plateaued, she switched to another. She remained in remission for 5 years the first time, and when she did relapse, immunotherapy had come along, which wasn't even a thing 5 years earlier. Dr. Salem likes to remind us that just because something isn't curable today, we don't know what's coming tomorrow. So we stick around and stay healthy for the next advancement in treatment, and then the next. Ellie's persistence and willingness to keep going and do the treatments that need to be done when her status changes inspires me to continue to do the next right thing in front of me too. So I like to consider myself realistic but hopeful. I mean, why not me and why not you? This is Barbara. So Barbara reached out to me during those darkest early days of my initial diagnosis, when almost every one of my breaths caught with fear. Barbara says that at 73 years young, her story is forever young. She was diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer at 36 years old in 1986, when her children were 9, 6, and 3. She lives in California, and the oncologist told her husband, "We will try to keep her alive for 5 years." She completed aggressive chemotherapy and a unilateral mastectomy, and almost 38 years since she heard those fateful words, she's not had one relapse and has never had to go back on treatment. And I still carry this little photo of Barbara in my wallet that she emailed me early on. It's a picture of her with her second of 5 grandkids, as you see above. One of the innumerable pieces of wisdom that Barbara has shared with me is that it's important to remember that when you go online for information, many people are sharing in the middle of their hard. There are so many people like Barbara who are busy living life and may or may not be talking about cancer online. She reminds me to guard what thoughts, energies, and stories I bring in. And she says that even now she still has moments where she thinks every ache or pain is related to cancer. She said, sorry, but it doesn't go away. but she doesn't obsess about it like she used to. And she asked that I share this picture with her 5 grandkids because she said a poor prognosis should never erase the hope that you can get there. So because of Barbara, I dream big and I picture myself surrounded by my own grandkids someday. Prem was a Lincolnite for a long time. Take a drink. He had imaging done of his brain tumor and oligodendroglioma in 2001, and by that time he was losing function of his left side. He underwent surgery and radiation, but there was a high likelihood that his cancer would return. 2 years later, he relapsed, and he was told he had about 6 months to live. He didn't like that he wasn't included in the planning of his therapy and decided to take matters into his own hands with a combination of a single dose of chemotherapy and many dietary, holistic, and natural therapies. And he's now been cancer-free for over 17 years. So the first time I sat down with Prem was before my first metastatic relapse. And I remember him looking me in the eyes across the table and saying, people like us want to do work that has purpose. And I was like, yeah, but in my head I was like, I don't want purpose ever again, I just want to live. Like, I don't care about purpose. But now I know what he meant by that, and I agree that I think purpose is as important as longevity in my life. Gotta find my spot here, because I mixed myself up. And then Dwayne, I don't know if I have my paper on him here, but Dwayne developed osteosarcoma, and he had his hand and his forearm amputated, but it had already metastasized to his lungs. And so Dwayne gets tumors made of bone in his lungs. He lives in Aurora, Nebraska, and gets treated in Grand Island. And at one time, I know one of the doctors looked at him and said, would you like to know your prognosis? And Dwayne said, I've spent 45 years not knowing when I was going to die. Why would I want to start now? So I really love Love that, but he has now been, it's been 11 years since his initial diagnosis, and he's been cancer-free for the last 3 years. For the longest time, he never got good news on scans either. I think one time he called my dad, they've become good friends, in tears. Like, this was the first time I've gotten good news on a scan. And then, finally, we have Lori. Lori was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer de novo, and she had extensive liver metastasis. She lives in Kansas City, and she decided to go travel to MD Anderson, where she was enrolled in a trial for Herceptin, which was a brand new drug at the time. And Lori was able to get into remission, and she's been on Herceptin ever since for over 24 years, and she has never relapsed. For Lori, one of the questions she asked me when I first met Lori was, what have you changed since your diagnosis? Are you reducing your stress? Have you taken a look at your work? Are you changing the food you choose to nourish your body? Are you resting and getting good sleep? And are you moving your body? Are you meeting your life with joy and gratitude? If you haven't changed anything, why would you expect a different result? So in my life, there's an ebb and flow to change. Sometimes I eat well, sometimes I exercise, sometimes I meditate, sometimes I rest. It can be overwhelming. I don't do all of these things well all of the time, and I only have capacity for so much, so I give myself grace. But Lori reminds me to pay attention to my nutrition, to moving my body, to spending time with good friends, and squeezing every drop of love out of life. So Ellie, Barbara, Prem, Dwayne, and Lori. In the faces and in my words, it's my desire that you see hope. Each of these friends continues to try to find the treatment that is the best fit for them. And just because something may not be curable today, we don't know what's coming tomorrow. So we stay healthy and we stick around for the next advancement in treatment and then the next. All the while, living and living fully. I remain realistic but hopeful, because as you can see here, hope is also realistic.